Episode of the Curlin Community Chatter. It changes every day, but we're here for a community service, and we have a very special guest with us today. We have the new incoming superintendent of the Scottsdale Unified School District, Dr. Scott Menzel. By way of introduction, he comes to us from Michigan, where he was born and reared. Spent a little time going to college out in the West Coast, and then came back to Michigan. He has worked since 2011 as the superintendent. Let me try to get this correct. The Washtenaw Intermediate School District. So almost the last decade. Prior to serving in that role, Dr. Menzel was superintendent of the Livingston Educational Service Agency for 4 years and in Whitmore Lake for 5 years. I think the big thing about him is he's driven by a commitment to equity, inclusion, and social justice. He has actually won a bunch of awards all the way to the White House YMCA Champion for Change Award. Welcome, Dr. Menzel.
Thank you, Mr. Curlin. So glad to be here this evening.
Okay, so go ahead. We're going to also have some translation done by our wonderful friend, Miss Cerna. Margaret Cerna, go ahead, translate if you would.
Les queremos dar las bienvenidas y les queremos introducir a Dr. Menzel. Es el superintendente futuro de Scottsdale Unified School District. Él viene del estado de Michigan y empieza su trabajo de superintendente el primer día de julio. Bienvenidos a todos.
Fantastic, thank you. So we're going to try to go a little bit slower today so that we reach a wide enough audience with the information. It's very important. I do want to say that Dr. Menzel is here of his own accord. He is not here as an endorsement to my campaign for the House. He's not representing the Scottsdale Unified School District. In fact, his official contract doesn't start to July 1st. So with that, we're going to kind of keep it light. We're going to keep it aspirational. And we're going to talk about the future we'd like to see. If anybody out there in Facebook land has a question, please type it into the comment bar. And our wonderful campaign manager, Andy Gomez, will try to get into the Zoom. And together, we will form a conversation that we will hope will start for future conversations. So, Dr. Menzel, Margaret is going to translate again. She'll hold her finger up, but she wants us to stop. So we'll try to do that. My education career began because of a second grade teacher that made an enormous amount of difference in my life. It wasn't even my teacher, was a next door teacher, and just showed a lot of love for a kid that had a lot of problems. Tell me, you got involved in education pretty high up. Was there a teacher in your upbringing that kind of made a difference, one that stands out?
There are many that stand out over the years, but I had the same teacher for first and second grade, Mrs. Kish. And I was like a lot of young boys, I had a lot of energy. I could not sit still in my seat, but she still saw potential and had a lot of patience with my antics over time and saw through that. And had she not, I could have ended up on a very different path because a lot of times, if we don't engage our young people in a way that meets them where they are, and we just see their behavior as problematic instead of being able to positively redirect, kids don't end up on the right path. And Mrs. Kish invested in me in a way that made a difference.
Yeah.
El señor Curlin le preguntó al superintendente si él tuvo una maestra que lo influenció para su vida. Señor Curlin dijo que él tuvo una maestra en el grado segundo que lo afectó porque ella creía en él. Y luego el Dr. Menzel dijo que él sí tenía una maestra que lo vio por todo que podía hacer, no por los problemas que hacía. Y por eso él es quien es hoy.
So tell me, first of all, how are you and your family doing health-wise during this time?
Thank you for asking that question. As of today, we're doing very well. I have a daughter in California who has been able to stay healthy, and one daughter who just finished at Michigan State here, graduated, and my wife and I we're doing well, and working hard to sell our house so we can get out to Arizona.
Fantastic. So I have actually had the occasion to visit Michigan, never before, but then twice in the last month of September.
Okay.
And the reason I went out was the first time was to watch Arizona State play Michigan State in football, and they won that game. I believe it was 10-9. And then I also watched the Yankees play the Tigers, and it was a rain out of another game, so we got a doubleheader. I actually got a ball from Aaron Judge. It was the greatest experience. And then I went back for a training. So here's the question I need to ask you, Dr. Menzel, for the people that are out there that understand Michigan. Which is it going to be for you? Is it American or Lafayette when you get to your Coney dog?
Mine would be American.
All right. I did a lot of research on that. Margaret, you want to tell the crowd what a Coney dog is?
A Coney dog is a Coney dog. Él está preguntándole cómo está la salud de su familia, y el doctor Menzel dijo que todos estaban bien y estaba muy agradecido. Él dijo que tiene una hija que graduó de la Universidad de Michigan, y luego el señor Curlin le preguntó cómo estaban las cosas en Michigan, y que él fue a visitar Michigan cuando los Sun Devils jugaron fútbol, y también los Sun Devils ganaron. También él fue a ver béisbol y habló poco de Aaron Judd, y luego le preguntó de qué caso de Pony Dog le gustaba, americano o Lafayette.
All right. How many Coney dogs is the record you've eaten in one sitting?
Oh, I have never participated in a contest. Any more than 2, I would not be able to make it out the door.
Okay. My personal best has been 6, and that was a very short stint. It had to be done. I was only there for a weekend. Okay. Hey, let's get back into the into the real stuff here. Tell me a little bit about what you were doing in Michigan. Kind of give me the greatest achievements. All right. I've read quite a long list, but what stands out in your mind as kind of your, maybe some kind of a legacy you're leaving behind?
Well, and I appreciate the question, Eric, but I would say any achievement is not my achievement. It's about the people that I work with and the team that we create, doing things to advance opportunities for children. And for me, the most significant thing that we've been able to accomplish in my 9 years here at Washtenaw Intermediate School District would be the consolidation of Ypsilanti and Willow Run school districts. And the reason why it's significant is that they were 2 struggling school districts. They're on the east side of my county, high concentration of poverty, racially and ethnically diverse, declining enrollment, deficit spending. Kids didn't have what they needed, and the state was about to either appoint an emergency manager or take over the school systems. And it was important for us to accomplish 2 things. One, to ensure that public education on the east side of Washtenaw County remained public education. And secondly, that we created equitable educational opportunities for the children who lived in those communities. Truthfully, I believe that zip code shouldn't determine destiny. And so in the context of the economic hardships at the beginning of this decade, we worked with those 2 districts to create a better future for the students in those 2 communities. It was not easy work, but the community came together and created a vision for their future that when it was put on the ballot, 61% of the voters in both communities agreed to give up their former identities and forge a new identity on behalf of the children in Ypsilanti and Willow Run.
Le preguntaron qué era su mayor logro cuando trabajando en Michigan y qué era el legado que él dejaba. Y el Dr. Menzel dijo que era un consolidar de 2 distritos que los niños estaban sufriendo porque no tenían todas las cosas para éxito. Y ellos hicieron un plan y también votaron, y con 61% de las personas estaban contentos para poner todos los distritos juntos para que todos los niños tuvieran éxito.
So I will give you a compliment right off the bat. The sign of a good leader is always deflecting the praise that he gets or she gets to the team. and always taking the the arrows in the back when it comes time for complaints. So kudos to you, sir. Is it all right if I call you Menzel or is it Menzel?
So as I tell this story, my family pronounces the name Menzel. If you talk about the family I was born into, if you ask the three ladies that live under my roof most of the time, they go by Menzel. And so I answer to either.
Okay. It's just not Johnny Manziel. Okay.
No, it is not. There's not an A, it is an E.
All right. So one of the things that is very interesting about Scottsdale is when schools had to be consolidated way back, we had quite the ruckus. I'm more interested into hearing how you and your team were able to get two school districts who are probably lower socioeconomics to be able to be brought into one with a higher socioeconomic, right? Ann Arbor's kind of a high level of income. Is that correct?
Well, it is, but they didn't consolidate with Ann Arbor yet. That's the next thing in on the journey.
Oh, okay. Then I misunderstood. I thought it was all one big happy family. That's going to be a tough one for them, right?
Well, so I'm going to make this short for your listeners and viewers, but Ypsilanti and Willow Run, one had 1,500 students, the other had 3,300, became one district. What we believe is required in order to truly ensure equitable educational opportunities for all of the children in Washtenaw County is to become one district. So we have 9 now, and there are some policy conversations underway in terms of what it would take to go from being 9 to 1. And part of why it's important is Ann Arbor is what we'll call an out-of-formula district. They get more money than any other district in my county. And if every district got the same amount of money per student as Ann Arbor did, we'd have $35 million more to invest in public education. Right now, we're at the point of an economic crisis in the state, and many states are experiencing the same thing. And the best time to be able to make the kinds of systemic change that's necessary to ensure children have the opportunities they need to be successful is during a crisis. And we have an unprecedented opportunity at this moment in history to do the things we know that are going to help more of our students achieve at high levels.
Oh boy, I love that you brought that up because I think we're at that crisis now. So let's get into the meat and potatoes of it. Hey, we're talking to Dr. Scott Menzel here. He is the incoming superintendent of Scottsdale Public Schools. We'll take your questions if you want to write those into the comments section, and then we'll try to get those over into the Zoom and get them answered. I do want to reiterate that he's not here endorsing my campaign for the House in District 23, nor is he representing the Scottsdale Unified School District, which he doesn't start until July 1st. Margaret Cerna with that feedback.
Okay. Señor Curlin le preguntó al superintendente que cómo le fue cuando consolidaron los dos distritos. Y él dijo que fue bien, pero ahora la cosa es más grande porque ahora quieren consolidar 9 distritos a 1 para que los niños de bajas socioeconómicas van a juntar con los niños de altos socioeconómicas para que reciben más dinero del Estado para dar oportunidad a todos los niños igualmente. Done.
Okay, we're back.
That was a lot of words.
Thank you so much, Margaret. Okay, whatever happens, if we're going to think big and if we're going to do big, Dr. Menzel, it's going to take all hands on deck. Tell me a little bit about, without going into the ideas of what you're going to do, just tell me about how are you going to work with everybody so that even if somebody doesn't get their way, there's going to be that buy-in. Because I am afraid that we are at a place in our district where some employee groups are kind of fractured, they're not working together, and I feel we have this opportunity like no other, but we only have one opportunity to do it right. So tell me a little bit about the design on how you get things done.
So for me, the transition coming into Scottsdale is first about listening and learning. And fortunately, the board actually provided a supplemental contract to allow me to do some work before my official start date so that I can get a head start, what I'm calling flattening my learning curve. so that I can begin to build relationships with people in the community, listen to what the concerns, the hopes, the aspirations are of people in Scottsdale. And that'll be more formal after I start on July 1st. And hopefully there'll be opportunities to do it in person. But if not, we're going to take advantage of technology to elevate all voices within the community with the idea of really understanding what it is that people want for public education in Scottsdale, what their hopes and aspirations are for the students we serve. One of the things that we've done in my current position is, instead of a traditional strategic planning process, which can be logical and sequential, we invert that a little bit by looking at a preferred futuring process. And instead of just saying, what do we do next based on where we are, we start by saying, what is our preferred future 10 years out? So in 2030, what do we envision for Scottsdale Unified School District? What we don't want to do is tie ourselves or limit our dreaming based on our current reality. We want to actually be very aspirational. We want all students in Scottsdale to achieve at high levels. We want to compete with the best and brightest and the most successful school districts anywhere in the world. We have no reason why we shouldn't be able to do that. So if we articulate what that vision of the future is, then we can come back to our current reality and say, what will it take to get from where we are to where we want to be in the next decade? And you only do that together. You cannot do that individually. It's not one person's vision or dream, it's the community's aspiration.
Margaret, you want in on this?
Sure, that was a good one. Okay, el superintendente dice que cuando él empieza su trabajo tiene que escuchar y aprender. Quiere conocer a todo el mundo, a construir relaciones con todos los empleados y también pensar en la futura, no nomás qué va a pasar mañana o un año, pero por 10 años, a tener un plan que da servicio a todo el mundo.
So we have a lot of questions coming in that I will get to and answer, but I see a lot of the similarities with myself as I talk to people. And mine is at 20 years. Where do we want to be in 20 years? Because quite frankly, we have a lot of people reacting to today. We cannot get from here to there in one jump. We have to scaffold, we have to climb the ladder, and we have to have this designated plan to get there. I think that's important. You cannot get there without the employee groups behind you. So I would just say, as the former president of the Scottsdale Education Association, and I worked with Margaret during the time as well, we did some great things working as a cohesive unit. And it only happened because we were all at the same table with the same values, the same goals. We do have within our midst, we have Kathy Webke, who lives in Scottsdale, and she's the president of the K-12 Institute, which works around the state for National Board Certified Teachers. And so she wants to know, do you embrace the role of National Board Certified Teachers and teacher leaders to advance the teaching and learning in a district?
And the answer is an unqualified yes. As a new superintendent in Whitmore Lake, my union president, Jan Party, was a member, or was a National Board Certified Teacher. And so that was my first exposure and experience with National Board training. And quite frankly, when I found out that Scottsdale has so many National Board teachers, I was really excited and had an opportunity to talk with Bobby Faulkner, who had been a part of the district, and get some background with respect to Scottsdale's foray into this area before I ever interviewed. So I think it's really important. We have to do more to elevate the teaching profession so that it gets treated like a profession, because the work that our teachers do day in and out to change lives is really powerful. And National Board recognition is, just elevates that in a way that the profession should be elevated.
Well, I think you're coming in at a great time. I personally think that we have some of the best people working on staff, whether it's administration, whether it's education support professionals, as you've seen kind of with the cafeteria folks, or whether it's, the administration. We have some great people. I've actually met and sat and had coffee with Kathy because I want her to work into the plan actually for the way to make Arizona a state that goes from hire to retire when it comes to education. We can save money if we just keep people in our state. A lot of money, and they get better because the research shows that teachers reach their efficacy at year 7 and then kind of plateau. A straight up decline. So she's going to be key, and I will set you up with her so that we get stuff going in Scottsdale. And I love that, Bobby. You met with Bobby. Okay. I have another question here from the parent of the, oh, go ahead, Margaret.
I'll just make it quick. El señor Curlin preguntó la señora Webke qué pensaba el superintendente de certificados nacional de maestras. Y él dice que está en soportarlos porque es las maestras más mejor para todos los niños en Scottsdale.
I'm going to ask Jennifer Steen's question right here, but I want to preface it to say that Dr. Menzel, again, is not coming on board officially until July 1st. So any crack at these questions might be just kind of you swinging away as it is. So bear with us. I am concerned, and here's my concern. Again, we have one opportunity to do things extremely well. I am concerned because probably about 25% of our teachers are of advanced age where they could retire. We have these kind of an inverted bell curve. And so I'm concerned how we open schools if they are not involved in the planning process, that we might, we already have a shortage in Arizona, but we might turn out with a very large shortage here in Scottsdale. So Jennifer Steen is asking, are you involved with the planning of the reopening or wherever that is in fall of 2020?
So yes, and I appreciate the question and the opportunity that I have to be involved in the planning for next year. Given that effective July 1st, the decisions that are made are then under my watch, I was able to participate in a meeting last Friday, which is really the re-engagement of the incident command system to think about what's the recovery process. So, we responded to the crisis back in March. Scottsdale's pivot to move to remote learning in such a short period of time was pretty phenomenal. If you would have asked people, was it possible before we did it, they might have said no. But what we saw happen was an entire school district team come together to make the impossible possible. And now we're in a position where we need to learn from what happened. What worked well in teaching and learning in a remote environment? What didn't work well for students? What didn't work well for teachers? What didn't work well for the district itself? How can we take the lessons that we learned over the past 2 months and use that to inform our planning for next year? And the truth is there's still a lot of unknowns. We don't know the progression of COVID. We don't know whether or not we're going to see a dip in infection rates during the summer and then a second wave as they talk about it. We don't know when we'll have a vaccine or if and when testing protocols will be sufficient to help us have confidence to return back to school we talk about a traditional sense, but nothing's going to be traditional after COVID-19, just like it wasn't traditional after 9/11. There are going to be some fundamental shifts in how we engage societally as a result of what we've experienced that we still don't know what those will be. So we're beginning the process at the present time to think about what that looks like. And we are going to be inviting diverse stakeholder voices to participate in one of 3 different committees. One that will be focused on operations and logistics, because there's a whole lot with facilities, transportation, food service, all of the things and supports necessary to ensure schools are successful. There'll be a group focused on teaching and learning and what it might look like under various scenarios, and then a group focused on social emotional aspects of supporting kids and families in this environment and teachers, because there's been a lot of trauma inflicted on people as a result of forced isolation and separation and not being able to come to school. And we don't even know the extent of what that impact is until we actually are able to come back together and assess that in some capacity. And in order to really answer the questions, the district first has issued a survey using Hanover Research to get input. But that's a starting point, not the ending point, because then these committees are going to include teachers, support staff, community members, parents, the student advisory board, who I've had a chance to meet with several times, some phenomenal students in Scottsdale, really ready to contribute in any way they can to a better future for the district. And they're vested in this community in pretty powerful ways. So we want to actually ensure that we've got all of the stakeholders represented in our contingency planning process.
Margaret, you want to come in and say a few
Sure,
words?
sure. Le preguntaron qué era la plan de futuro a empezar escuela después de COVID. Y el Dr. Menzel dijo que tenemos que ver todas las experiencias que tuvimos cuando cerramos, qué trabajó, qué no trabajó, y también qué va a pasar, que vamos a tener vacunas. Hay muchas preguntas que todavía no sabemos las respuestas. Por eso, él dice que cuando empieza la escuela, nada va a estar lo mismo, todo va a cambiar. Y que tenemos grupos que están trabajando a decir qué son los mecánicos de empezar en la escuela, pero más importante, qué es el social y emocionales de los niños, cómo vamos a estar preparados para tener las necesidades de esos niños que han sufrido, cómo los vamos a ayudar cuando empiezan.
Well, I think information gathering is terrific. My unsolicited advice, because I'm a guy and I do that, would be to do some fishbowl or some kind of focus groups with each of your employee groups to get actually the nuggets of information that from teachers, from administrators, from education support professionals. I would hope that the federal government would take this role on as kind of like a COVID job force, where we actually increase the hiring of people who are now unemployed to be cleaning the buses, to be cleaning the cafeteria, maybe even go school that goes much more than a 6-hour day, but with shifts. There's so many things we could do, but to pay for unemployment while people sit idle, I think there's a way for us to have a good, like a jobs program. So let's talk big issues here. What do you, I don't want to stump you or anything. You've heard of community schools?
Yes.
Yeah. I think there's a grand opportunity in the southern part of our district to form a partnership with our hospitals down there, the city of Scottsdale, the food pantry, all these kinds of wraparound services. And we could actually start a community school down in the southern part of our district and then actually have it probably across the street from Coronado in the old Oak building, because it's already outfitted for pre-K and actually 2-year-olds and 1-year-olds. It's actually, it's compliant with the state. And then we can actually have a CTE course where kids that are over at Coronado come over and learn about early childhood education. It just seems like a win, 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 win. It's like win infinity. Tell me you love the idea, Dr. Menzel. Just tell me that.
So I love the idea of community schools. I have seen them work. In fact, Ypsilanti Community Schools, the district, the two that consolidated, took on the name community school because absent that partnership with the larger community and thinking about the whole child, whole family, whole community, we don't see success for our students. And it needs to be from the time a child is born all the way through post-secondary education. So we should be thinking about a P20 system, not just a K-12 system. And so I don't know enough about the specifics. So for example, I haven't been to Oak Street. I don't know those details, but I can tell you that in order to address the needs of our kids and families, we need to be embracing ideas that are more inclusive of a broader set of stakeholders, investing in kids and families in order to ensure their success.
Well, Margaret, before you explain this one, I'm going to give you a little bit more to explain, because I did talk to you a little bit about this. I think that by having early childhood education that's based on play and Piaget, and we can get back to the real things that matter. We have parents that are working just to reach Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Not Bloom's taxonomy. So they need us to be able to watch their kids in a safe learning environment so that they can go out and put bread on the table. We could actually index the cost to them to actually go and participate in this for whatever money they make, but also we can have GED classes at night, language classes, parenting classes. It just becomes the focal point. And actually that's, for me, is so much more important than whatever is going to be placed in at the high school level, because by that time the die has been cast. Yep. And if it is not a money maker, That's okay. Education was never about making money. But those kids that will start school in second, 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, they are going to be with this school district for 12 years when the payment is the right amount. It's an investment in both the financial stability of the district as well as the stability of the community. Go ahead, Margaret, nail that one.
Okay. Señor Curlin le preguntó que qué pensaba de escuelas de comunidades para darle servicio a nuestras personas, como si tuvimos hablar con los hospitales, con las casas de comidas, para tener un center que tenía clases para los niños, para los padres, para dar servicios, cómo él piensa que eso puede trabajar. El punto focal es que tenemos muchas personas que están buscando trabajo y aquí tenemos personas que pueden dar los servicios y que podemos trabajar juntos para darle oportunidades de aprender a todo el mundo.
Thank you so much. Dr. Menzel, we're at a half hour. Do you have any more time or do we have to shove off?
I can do 10 to 15 more minutes, and then I probably have to shove off since we're 3 hours ahead of you.
Okay, we're going to take 15 minutes because you said we have 15 minutes. Fantastic. I love that. Okay, put 15 minutes on the clock, Gomez. All right, here we go. Beth Parsa, blah, 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 blah. Jennifer McDowell. Yes, SUSD faces a unique challenge like the rest of the state, suffer from inadequate enrollment and declining enrollment. I'm sorry, inadequate funding and declining enrollment. What do you have a plan for marketing and bringing back our neighborhood schools?
So Arizona and Michigan are very similar in this regard. We are school of choice and charter states where we compete for kids and all of the money follows the students. So looking at SUSD's demographic trends, we've been declining enrollment with the exception of last year where we stabilized a bit. But about 10,000 students that are school age that live within the boundaries of SUSD don't choose to go to school in SUSD. And for me, that's a concern. And the first order of business is to figure out why. So marketing is important. But for me, I need to understand what the reasons are that parents are choosing either a charter school, a neighboring public school, or a private parochial school option for their students. From an outsider's perspective looking in, Scottsdale has a lot of different educational opportunities where parents can find something that meets the needs of their students. But there's something that's not sitting right with some of our families, and I need to figure out what that is, because just doing a general marketing campaign absent having that information probably won't be successful. Secondly, I believe the most powerful advocates for our school system are the people who work in the school system and the parents who send their children to our school system. So word of mouth works a whole lot better than anything that we do in terms of formal marketing. You got to do both. You can't not market. But telling our story is important, and having people telling our story in the grocery aisles and in their churches and in the community parks, those are also very important stories to tell as well. So I think the marketing effort is all of our responsibility. We need to do both the formal and the informal and understand where we're missing the mark for some families so that we can get them to come back to our school, because we should be the district of choice for everyone who lives within Scottsdale and arguably the district of choice for anyone who works in Scottsdale.
Margaret, you want to put that into a few words?
Yes. Le pregunto qué pensaba que teníamos niños que no van a escuela en Scottsdale y que la inscripción de los niños tiene que subir para que vengan los dineros con esos niños. Y el Dr. Menzel dijo que tenemos que decir a todo el mundo la cuenta de todo que está bien en Scottsdale, porque nosotros queremos que los niños que viven en Scottsdale vayan a las escuelas de Scottsdale. Y eso empieza con decir el cuento de todo que está bien y con marketing también.
Okay, I'm going to just read a couple of compliments we have here. You're making a great impression. Lisa Valentine, who I worked with over at Holcomb Elementary School, she's a teacher assistant in one of the SPED classrooms. 21 years, she says, I've never been more inspired and I'm ready to roll up my sleeve and do what's best for all. Fantastic, right? Cheryl Regier. I'm sorry, Cheryl. She said, "Welcome to Arizona." She's happy to see you. What ideas do you have for teacher retention? And this is a big issue in Scottsdale, the teacher employment agreement. And Bryn, who is the incoming president of Arizona of Law and the Public Interest, wants to know kind of where Michigan Education Association is the same or different from Scottsdale Education Association. As a point of reference, you might already know this, but in a couple of superintendents ago, not good or bad, I won't say anything, but over 50 years of bargaining was kind of thrown out the window. A lot of people are hurt by that already. Now it's a few years later, they're still hurt by it. So we have a lot of questions about that. People want to know about that kind of employment agreement. What's the deal with bargaining, meet and confer? We are a at-will state, a right-to-work state. So, but hey, there was a compliment in there for you, right? Oh, hey, Faith says, very impressed about the certainty of the current situation, the realities, and the word of mouth and points of pride in our schools. That's the way to go. So what do you think about that with the employment agreement and the difference between Michigan Education Association that's out here?
So as you know, Michigan is a much stronger union state than Arizona.
Yeah.
And I actually have an AFT group in my current position, but I've worked with the MEA in former positions. And for me, there's an important role that the unions play in Michigan. There's an important role that we play on the same team. And I've always approached bargaining from a collaborative perspective. We're not on different teams, we're on the same team. And there's a role that education associations play. There's a role that I play as a superintendent and the governing board plays. At the end of the day, we have a certain amount of resources. We have an educational product to deliver, and we should all be focused on how do we ensure that our children get the best educational experiences they possibly can get so they can achieve their full potential. And I think that working together, we can craft agreements that put us in a place where we can do just that. For me, one of the big challenges is that we don't have sufficient resources to pay our best and brightest teachers what they deserve.
I'm going to help out with that, okay?
Yes.
Just give me in November. I'm going to help out.
Because it's critical when you think about other professions and what they get paid for the work that they do. And people will point to ineffective teachers. And I have a concern about that because we really don't want to have ineffective teachers in our classroom either. And I don't think that SEA does. I think we want to help teachers who need to improve get better. We want to use our master teachers to help those teachers get better. And we want to figure out how to elevate the profession so that every student is taught by a highly qualified, highly trained teacher. And to your point, we don't want them to leave Arizona. We don't want them to leave Scottsdale. So we want to invest in them and have them stay for their entire career because that will produce positive results for our students.
Actually, there's a lot of people complimenting you, Margaret, thanking you for the translation. Isn't that nice?
Oh, you're welcome, everyone.
Hey, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my plan, all right? Just a little bit. Here's my big picture for 20 years, right? We started this conversation as to where do we want to be in 20 years. You said 10 years. I consider that the same thing. We have to plan shoot high. I think that every teacher, first through third year, gets a mentor. And that mentor goes through a program with Kathy Webke and the National Board Certified Teachers. That's a way to keep their National Board certification. Then years 4 through 10, the state pays for part of their pension, right? The portion that comes out of their pay. We do a partial pay so that people want to continue in Arizona. They now have a vested interest. If they then so leave, which they could for whatever reason, they don't get the money that the state put into that pension for them. Then on years 11 through 20, or right around there, I mean, it could be flexible. This is just big picture ideas. We work with our community colleges and four-year universities to give free or reduced master's degrees to our teachers. And then we work the cycle again on the part of retirement that they get free healthcare until 65 years old for mentoring teachers back in the school. So we have this circular way that people, quite frankly, everybody that gets into education, I think, gets into it because they want to help kids succeed. They want them to reach their full potential. They want the aha moments. They don't get into it for the money. And the more we can allow them to have control over that destiny, to continue to live that dream, and helping kids continually, I think the better we'll be. You want to translate that, or you want to add to that, Dr. Menzel?
I want to say I appreciate the creativity of your approach, and I just finished reading a book by Mark Tucker on high performing school systems, lessons learned from around the world. And he talks about even a partnership that the National Center for Education and the Economy has with the National Board for Professional Teaching Standards in terms of creating career ladders for teachers that don't require them to no longer be teachers. Because in our system, if you want to keep moving up, you have to move out of the classroom and into administration. Wouldn't it be great if we could create systems where teachers can continue to teach and invest in the profession? So I think your idea has some really interesting possibilities, and I appreciate you sharing.
And I feel like, and I don't know if this translates, Margaret, but if we were in the same room by those cactuses, I feel like we'd be hugging right now. I think we would have like a hug going on. I think I'm loving you. You know what? Stacy Sales says she loves the plan. Something about the cacti, though. She wants to go back to school. Okay. Go ahead.
Ok, están hablando cómo van a retener las maestras que siempre se están en Scottsdale con nuestros niños. El señor Curlin le dijo que él tenía una plan o unas ideas cómo ayudar que las maestras más mejor se estén con nosotros. Él dice que en el año 1 a 3 que ellas tienen las ayudas para ser maestras buenas. Él recomienda que trabajamos con Kathy Webke para ayudarles a estas maestras. Y luego años 4 hasta 10 que les ayudamos a tener una pensión, que ellas o ellos se quieren estar en ser maestras. Y luego de 11 a 20, ayudarles a pagar por su colegio para que puedan hacer más dinero y que ellas no tienen que hacer directoras o fuera al distrito, que pueden hacer su dinero en el salón estando de maestra de los niños.
Thank you. I'm going to kind of wrap it up by saying that you have my undying service now, Dr. Menzel. Anything you need. I've got 25 years of institutional knowledge that a lot of people do not have. Actually, back in 2008, we did a survey. I think this is a way forward where we actually had come out with, we would have gained 100 students if we would have given free childcare to our employees if they were to come to our school district. And we were too afraid to pull the trigger. And my thought was we had capacity within those programs where it would cost us nothing based on the staffing we already had. And if it went over, it would cost us next to nothing. But what we would have gotten back in employee efficacy by working, knowing that their kids are taken care of and not having to leave right away, along with increased enrollment. I would love it if we could talk about where we've been, where we are, and where we could go, because I see sky as the limit. I mean, even past that, I have never been so excited about the state of education in Arizona. The fact that we're 49th in funding, we're the worst in this, we're the worst in that, we got the largest class sizes. We have the foundation of people in this state that can make for a system that we now have the opportunity to build. And welcome to the best time of your life. I'm happy you're here in Scottsdale. And I trust Margaret when she says you're a good egg. And let me ask you something. Are you a cook? Do you cook?
Do I cook? I cook occasionally.
Yeah. All right. Let me ask you this one question then, because I love food. If you were sent to death row and you had one last meal to have, what would the entree be?
That's a hard one. But Old Spaghetti Factory's Mizithra, because I love Mizithra and the brown butter.
Nice. That is out of left field. Very nice. Okay, I'm sorry. One more thing, Dr. Menzel. This is kind of graduation week. And our kids, no matter what stage, whether it's elementary, going to middle to high to college, or graduating college, going into the workforce, they have had unprecedented challenges in the last couple of months. What kind of words of wisdom do you have for them? Could you share a little bit, drop a little knowledge?
Sure. Well, thank you for the opportunity. First, congratulations to the class of 2020 and to all of our students that have now lived through something that your parents never lived through before, and many others in your life have never experienced. The adversity that we have in our lives creates opportunities to shape and form us into something that's special. And so today things might feel very challenging and very difficult, but when you look back in your life, you're going to see that this moment in time helped make you the person that you're going to become. And the way that you've tackled this challenge and the way that you've faced head on some of the uncertainties with respect to your future is pretty powerful. And I'm confident in our next generation of leaders, because of the experiences that you've had, that we will be in good hands. And I'm looking forward to continuing to work with you as you take that next step in your journey and to celebrating your legacy as you come back and share with us what you're doing after you leave Scottsdale Unified School District.
Thank you so much for coming on the program. Tomorrow we have a family and child psychologist coming on for Wellness Wednesday, so get your questions in. If anybody has any more questions for Dr. Menzel, you know, the time just flew by. Send it to me at ericcurlin23@gmail. I'll forward it to his team. We'll see if maybe we can get a couple more words out of him in writing this time. We'll try not to hold it against him. And Margaret's got a last parting shot. Thank you so much.
El señor Curlin le dijo al superintendente que está muy emocional de la futura y piensa que todo va a ir mejor para nuestros niños, los maestros, y le dio gracias por estar con nosotros. También él dijo si tenemos más preguntas por el Dr. Menzel, que se los mande al señor Curlin y él se encuentra con él para las respuestas. Y gracias y salud buena para todo el mundo.
Adios, everybody. Let's see those dance moves, Dr. Menzel. You ready to dance us off of the program? Here we go. Bye, everybody. See you tomorrow.
Okay.